This is people being broken down into subsets. It's a really strange thing the Father is pointing out. He says, let everybody drink. He says there's some that's going to lap it like a dog. But when you see a dog go to lap, a human that laps like a dog is going to be on their knees and on the hands. You see that? And then he said, but end up letting anybody drink water. They may not lap like a dog, but they may drink, but they still going to kneel down. Did you see that? But he said there's going to be a subset of dudes out of all of those dudes. Watch them close. Their knees won't touch the ground. They're going to scoop the water up and drink it out of their hands. Stand up dudes that's going to be ready to have a set of principles. You see that? They looking and they saying, oh, everybody's drinking water. They drinking water fast. These guys drinking water like that. These guys drink like water like that. But look, I'm not doing that. We've talked about this before, you guys. They show this in their little scientific studies. Y'all know about it. When they say, here's a triangle, here's a circle, then they get a whole bunch of people to go and do it. And then it's some people sitting there saying, it's a triangle and it's literally a circle sitting right there. Remember that? When y'all used to watch that little brain games or something like that? Y'all remember that? Huh? And you sitting up there like, am I that type of person? And I'm sitting up here knowing good and well, I don't care if 1 trillion people say that puppy is a triangle and I'm looking at a circle. When they get to me, I'm saying circle. Period. But they showed you that most people aren't cut like that. Yes or no? If what I see is a circle, I don't care if 1 trillion of y'all, I don't care if everybody on earth, if they all say triangle and I'm looking at a circle, I'm saying circle, period. That's what the Father is looking for.
Do you want a seat at the table, or will you take a stand for the Lord? Do you need a cane? Are you able to put in the work? We need to win this war.
We are not evolved from apes. We have never bowed our backs. We have never taken a seat while our brethren suffered lack. We have never looked on while the battle roared on. We were on the Father's side and the victory was won. We have never put our feet up while freedom was marching by. We bound our lives with theirs and praised the Father Most High. We are not the ones who sit. We're sorry if you're lonely, but we're warning you before. It's standing room only.
Judges 7. Then Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and all the people who were with him rose early and encamped against the spring, beside the spring of Harod, and the camp of Midian was north of them, by the hill of Moreh, in the valley. The Lord said to Gideon, the people with you are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hand, lest Israel vaunt themselves against me, saying, my own hand has delivered me. Now therefore proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, whoever is fearful and trembling, let him return home. And Gideon tested them. 22,000 returned, and 10,000 remained. And the Lord said to Gideon, the people are still too many. Take them down to the water, and I will test them for you there. And he of whom I say to you, this man shall go with you, and any of whom I say to you, this man shall not go with you, shall not go. So he brought the people down to the water, and the Lord said to Gideon, everyone that laps the water with his tongue, as a dog laps, you shall set by himself. Likewise, everyone that kneels down to drink. And the number of those that lapped, putting their hands to their mouths, was 300 men. And all the rest of the people knelt down to drink water. And the Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men that lapped, I will deliver you, and give the Midianites into your hand, and let all the others go, every man to his home. So he took the jars of the people from their hands, and their trumpets, and he sent all the rest of Israel, every man to his tent. but retained the 300 men, and the camp of Midian was below him in the valley. That same night the Lord said to him, Arise, go down against the camp, for I have given it into your hands. But if you feared to go down to the camp with Purah your servant, and you shall hear what they say, and afterward your hands shall be strengthened to go down against the camp. Then he went down with Purah his servant to the outposts of the armed men that were in the camp. And the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the people of the east lay along the valley like locusts for multitude, and their camels were without number, as the sand which is upon the seashore for multitude. When Gideon came, behold, a man was telling a dream to his comrade, and he said, Behold, I dreamed a dream, and lo, a cake of barley bread tumbled into the camp of Midian, and came to the tent, and struck it so that it fell, and it turned it upside down, so that the tent lay flat. And his comrade answered, This is no other than the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel. Into his hand God has given Midian and with all the host. And all the host. When Gideon heard the telling of the dream and its interpretation, he worshipped, and he returned to the camp of Israel, and said, Arise, for the Lord has given the host of Midian to your hand. And he divided 300 men into 3 companies, and put trumpets into the hands of all of them, and empty jars with torches inside the jars. And he said to them, Look at me, and do likewise. When I come to the outskirts of the camp, do as I do. When I blow the trumpet, and all who are with me, then blow the trumpets also on every side of the camp, and shout for the Lord and for Gideon. So Gideon and the 100 men who were with him came out to the outskirts of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch, when they had just set the watch, and they blew the trumpets and smashed the jars so that they were in their hands. And the 3 companies blew the trumpets and broke the jars, holding in their left hands the torches, and in their right hands the trumpets to blow. And they cried, A sword for the Lord and for Gideon. They stood every man in his place round about the camp, and all the army ran. They cried out and fled. When they blew the 300 trumpets, the Lord set every man's word against his fellow, and against all the army. And the army fled as far as Bethshittah, towards Zerah, as far as the border of Abel-Moklah, by Tabath. And the men of Israel were called out from Naphtali, and from Asher, and from all Manasseh, and they pursued after Midian. And Gideon sent messengers throughout all the hill country of Ephraim, saying, Come down against the Midianites, and seize the waters against them, as far as Bethabara, and also the Jordan. So all the men of Ephraim were called out, and they seized the waters as far as Bethabara, and also the Jordan. And they took the 2 princes of Midian, Oreb and Zeb, and they killed Oreb at the rock of Oreb, and Zeb they killed at the winepress of Zeb. As they pursued Midian, and they brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon beyond the Jordan. The word of the Lord.
Oh, this is gonna be a little. I don't know if y'all gonna be able to get this one. Judges 7. You think you got it, Emmanuel? Okay, what up?
In a state of confusion.
What?
In a state of confusion.
In a state of confusion. Mm-mm. Anybody? Ha! Ephraim. It has been given into your hands. Not bad. Oh, 2 more hands. Jubilee. Round and round of war.
How shall I send you?
How shall I send you? Ellie's in at the last minute, dude. Ellie Ezra.
Strategy versus strength.
Strategy versus strength. Not bad. I'm gonna be preaching this one from do a little bit of clarification. Because there's some things here in this one through Revelation that we have to receive. And, you know, I haven't really heard it preached before. I don't know if people fully understand what's going on in the chapter. From some of the other, this is a very popular chapter in the Bible. Like people preach this chapter, people know about it, you know, because it's kind of victorious and, you know, resourceful, and it's got a lot in there that's very positive. So you'll hear it being preached, even with the preachers who normally stay in Ephesians in the New Testament. They'll even come in there and get this one out. It's a one that could give people some juice, some feel good for the week ahead of them. So it's often preached, but I know the angle that they typically come from is just like that the Lord can do a lot with a little. You know, he could get rid of the 32,000, which is what they started with it, will it down to 300. He could get it done with that. That's always good news. You know, one man plus God is a majority, stuff like that. That's all good news. But there's a little note on this chapter in the scripture that says a couple things. One, they're confused about Jerubbaal, why he's got that name. And they say they just think it's a mistake because Jerubbaal indicates somebody who is supportive of the ball structure. You understand? You got to understand something though. Joash is Gideon's daddy and they worship Baal. But Gideon didn't. You understand that? And when Gideon shows his daddy who's who and what's what, like when Gideon comes to his own, like Pops said, we're not going for this no more. His dad receives it. Like, well, if my son is going to be this bold about it, I like that type of activity. That's what happened. Just so you know. We preached that in the other chapter. Joash like, well, dang, if my son going to really take leadership like this, and he's got that spirit upon him where he's able to rip down the altar of Baal and the tower of Asherah and stare everybody down, knowing what was going to happen, it's got to be something there. So Joash gets on the side of his son. They come looking for him, and he was like, look, y'all talking about killing my son and killing us? Listen, y'all, none of y'all not going to live. Because Joash is like, Gideon's daddy is nice, apparently. That's what I perceived it. And he's able to stare down those dudes that's like, we want to kill your son. He was like, man, I'll kill all of y'all. None of y'all won't live until the morning. You know what I'm saying? But here's what I'm presenting to y'all. Offer y'all can't refuse. Why, if y'all saying Ball is all that, let him do it. So I'm giving y'all an out. You see what I'm saying? Like, y'all don't want no problems with me because you know I'll kill all of y'all by the morning. Right? But I'm giving y'all some logic, some reasoning, so y'all can take it back to the hood. Because I know the hood sent you here to kill my son, but you're not going to live. So here's the deal. And y'all know I'm the biggest baddest one out here. Take this message back to the hood and then let the people receive it. Well, in honesty, Ball should be able to do it himself. If he's a God, that's what he gave him. And they was like, all right, well, we'll go with that one. Because they didn't really want it with Joe Ash. I'm telling you guys that because it's kind of like establishing, y'all, it's establishing these men, they don't have the righteousness, right? But they've got some toughness and some dignity. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They don't have all the righteousness, but they got some toughness and some dignity in this group of Gideon and them, this family. And the father's working with Gideon to show him righteousness. You know what I'm talking about? Because he's like, but he got some dignity and he's definitely strong. He's definitely powerful. Remember what I told y'all? They found Gideon in a very small, close circumstance doing what cows would do with his hands and feet. He was taking what the cow would do in a wide open space with the air all on you and everything. Remember when Paul said, don't muzzle an ox while he tread out the grain? That's a scripture that they like to use. They saying don't make it more difficult than it already is for a cow, for a bull. Don't muzzle this ox while you tread out the grain. I mean, don't put no muzzle on him, just lead him around so he could be able to breathe the open air. Okay? He's in the open air and he's treading it out. It's a tough job. So they saying, let him breathe. You see what I'm talking about? Gideon isn't doing it in the open air. He's not an ox. He's not a bull. He's a man. And he's doing it in a close circumstance inside of wine press. And he's doing the work of what a bull, a couple of bulls or a couple of oxen would do together. See what I'm saying? That's the type of dude you're dealing with. So that's his lineage. All right. The title of this chapter is called Standing Room Only. Because I'm messing around a little bit. Doing a little bit of my own little playing around with something. The reason why is because I realized that the father was playing around with folks and he's going to name him Jerubal. He's being sarcastic. He's being counterintuitive because that's what it takes sometimes when you're dealing with people who have dignity and strength and all the tools, but they don't have righteousness. You have to give things to them counterintuitive because they think that they know everything, kind of. So you kind of have to flip it around for them to be able to appreciate it. They're giving him the name Jerubal, but it's pure sarcasm. That's why anybody that's see his name, they're going to think that he was a worshiper of Baal, but it's actually pure sarcasm. Let Baal do it. You see what I'm saying? It's not, you know what I'm saying, let Baal do it. You see what I'm saying? It's not let Baal do it. Like he can do it, so let him do it. It's like let Baal do it. So the words are the same, Jerubal, but the inflection that they're using is different. They're not saying let Baal do it because he can get it done. They're saying let Baal do it because he can't get it done. We're sarcastic about him and his abilities. So that's his name, and that's what the source of confusion why people say they don't know why Gideon's nickname was Jerubal. It must have something to do with the fact that he was a worshiper of Baal. No, it has everything to do with they being sarcastic about what Baal is able to do. You understand? That's why I said standing room only. Standing room only, have you ever heard anybody use that term before? Y'all don't even know. Y'all never even heard nobody just be like standing room only. It was standing room only. Have you heard it, Charlie? I know you've heard of that. Nobody here has heard of standing. It was standing room only. Yeah, like they said, like we had an event. Being sarcastic. They saying we had an event, and it was so many people wanted to come to the event. You understand? Like let's just say we had an event in a theater, in a movie theater or something, right? It was so many people wanted to come and see this thing at this football game or whatever that all the seats were taken. You understand? Seats taken. And then it was standing room only. You understand? So after all the seats were taken, the room was packed out. The rest of the people who got let in, they could only stand up around until that was packed, and then they just can't let nobody else in. That's what they use to refer to standing room only when you have an event with that many people coming in there, okay? I'm doing something sarcastic with it. Because the Father does something sarcastic with it. This is what he does. I'll show you this. Father said, who want a part of righteousness and who wants a part of righteous glory and to do the righteous work of the Lord and to be on the side of the Father and the part of his victory that's going to happen. And a whole bunch of people came. But guess what? They was just worshiping. Boy, y'all know that. You see what I'm saying? Because these people are glory chasers. You understand? That's why they was worshiping Baal and Ashtaroth, because they saw other people worshiping Baal and Ashtaroth. You see that? And they was like, oh, they got money, or oh, they're doing good. So then they worship Baal and Ashtaroth. These aren't steady people. They're not stand-up dudes. You see that? I'm working with something here. These aren't stand-up folks. These are, we're going to follow the crowd. We're going to follow anything that's going on. That's not a stand-up person. A stand-up person with dignity is like, no, I'm going to, I have my own set of principles I like to try to stick by. Even as I develop new principles, you see what I'm talking about? I'm conservative in that. I've got principles that I've been passed down to me from righteous and good people. I've got principles that I've picked up on some of my own in my life to know what's right from wrong, what's dignified and undignified, what's going to be legit. And just because I see somebody else being successful for a moment, are you there? Or just because I see somebody else looking good for a moment, looking pretty for a moment, or running fast for a moment, I have my own set. I'm going to stick to that. But there's another type of people say, whatever they see, that's what y'all have been joking about over the last 2 weeks, talking about lemmings. That whenever they see anything trending, you shall see that. Whenever they see anything go viral, you understand what I'm talking about? I like that word. Viral. Okay? What? You guys know I'm telling the truth. As soon as they see something go viral, they're going to say, I'm going to hurry up and do it. Ain't that right, Charsha? As soon as they see something trending, they're going to say, I'm going to try that because it's going to work for me. That's not a stand-up person. I'm giving y'all some terminology because we had that in the hood. They'd be like, man, what's he like, man? He ain't no stand-up type of guy. Oh, what about him over there, man? That's a stand-up dude. You see what I'm talking about? That's how we talk. And what we're saying is he's principled. He's not going to be wishy-washy. He's not going to be quickly. And even, here's the thing, why stand-up dudes are great. Because even if you disagree with him, at least you know what to expect from him. You see what I'm talking about? And then all the work becomes, well, let me just talk to him and see if I can help him to understand the righteousness in what I'm doing. Because if he can understand that, he'll get with that and then he will stick with that. You see what I'm talking about? But a person that's not a stand-up person, you don't want them at all, even if they agree with you. Because guess what? Tomorrow they're going to be one of them lemmings. They're going to go with what is viral. They're going to go with the trend. They're going to try anything. That's why I entitled this one, Standing Room Only. It's a little bit, I'm playing around a little bit. Because what I'm trying to describe to you is a crazy situation the Father set up where he said, I know that all these viral chasers, all these lemmings, all these trending people, I know they're going to come running because they run to anything that they think it's going to get a win. And guess what? This going to be a win. I done already said it. It's going to be a W. Period. And they're going to come running. To the point where the room is going to be standing room only. Everybody going to be up in there. Here's the problem. There's going to be a lot of people up in there sitting down. Did you see that? There's going to be people that rush up in there and do what? Sit down and say, I'm here. You see that? So there's a process that the Father creates for Gideon and his folks. I'm going to show you this. This is where everybody gets confused. When you heard the scripture being read, this is where they preach it at. He starts off with 32,000 people who show up. And the Father says, tell them whoever's scared, keep it moving. You see that? That's simple enough. He's getting quickly to the bottom of the character. But basically telling Gideon to let them know, oh, and here's the crazy part. If y'all really actually paid attention. Let me ask y'all a question. Was it a scary affair? Y'all saw what happened. Was it a scary affair? No. You see that? It wasn't scary at all. They went down there with their trumpets and some little torches. You know what I'm saying? Little light torches. Yelled out some stuff, and the dudes got to running and fleeing. They just chopped them down. It wasn't no scary affair. It wasn't like the Battle of Armageddon or nothing. It was like a joke, really. But the Father gonna tell Gideon to represent to them. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Just you gotta read it. What he gonna tell Gideon is take the posture that this one's gonna be a knockdown, drag out. Did you see that? So Gideon goes in there like, yeah, this gonna be knockdown, drag out. So people gonna lose their life. So people get their mouth blew out. You know what I'm saying? Some of y'all gonna lose your teeth. Some of y'all, you know what I'm saying? Anybody scared though, y'all welcome to leave. Guess what? Them one sitting down got up and left the room. 22,000 of them. You see that? That's like a third, 2/3 of them. They had 32,000, 22,000 left. That's like about 2/3. You see what I'm saying? 1/3 is left. Y'all got that? Roughly. Okay? So he's left with 1/3 of people who show up to this standing room only event that was actually going viral, was actually trending, that everybody actually was going to be a part of because they was like, this is going to be a win. And he gives Gideon a situation to say, tell him it's going to be knocked down, drag out, and see who's left. When he does that, some people are like, no, I don't want no parts of that. You see what I'm talking about? Get rid of a third of them, but it's still a third of them left. And that's where it gets down to the nitty gritty. He say, no, that's too many. That's too many. And the reason why he says it's too many is because he says, at that number, you still have a lot of faithless people in there. And faithless people are poison for righteousness. Because they always undermine my work, and it's difficult to cause people to believe because we don't have a faith record. Did y'all follow what I said? We don't have a history of faith that gets established amongst the people when you have too many people who aren't really deep into the faith, because they're going to offer up other types of reasons for the victory. That's what they do. They undermine the work of God because they say, oh, there was this happened because it was a lot of us. If we have 10,000. Or this happened because we had chariots this time. You see what I'm saying? Or this happened because we had horses this time. He's saying, no, we got to get it to the point where there's no other explanation for this victory other than the righteousness of our Father Yah. You see that? That's not easy to do, you guys. You understand? That's not easy to do. Because you can just get rid of a sheer number of people to get it down to a few. But guess what? The few that you left with even, and I noticed the experience, can still be people that don't have faith, and they'll usurp the work of our Father Yah. Do you understand? You could, And that's the point about the Father doing this process that nobody can seem to get to the bottom of in the Bible. They don't know what happened. Do y'all know what happened? The Father sets up this weeding out process that you've never seen it before and you will never see it again. It's instead of the Christ. What I'm saying is the Christ is able to look right at people. Do y'all know that? This is a special power given to him that nobody else has. He's able to look right at people and know right away. This one is legit, this one not legit. And here's the reasons why. The Christ is able to do that. He's the only one in the Bible that's ever was able to do that. Remember, Moses had to draw a line and kill a bunch of folks. And then they still had infiltrators, like low down people, still. You see what I'm talking about? Christ is the only one. And having seen Judas already, having seen Matthew already, he was like, this is what you're going to do. I know what you're going to do, but, it all has to be done that way. But he actually knows exactly what they're going to do. He's the only one that's able to do that. Otherwise, the Father has to give us processes. Are y'all there? Come on, stay with me. The Father has to give us processes, you guys, for the rest of us who are not the Christ. And he comes up with this little weed out process. He says, take them to the water and let them drink water and see how they drink water. This is what everybody understands the scripture to say. Real quick. They understand it to say that there's two types of groups of men. Did y'all hear me? That there's two types of groups of men. Men that drink like a dog and men that drink straight from the water. You see that? That's how they read that. And that's wrong. That's an erroneous reading of it. That's an erroneous reading of it. This is people being broken down into subsets. It's a really strange thing the Father is pointing out. He says, let everybody drink. He says there's some that's going to lap it like a dog. But when you see a dog go to lap, a human that laps like a dog is going to be on their knees and on the hands. You see that? And then he said, but end up letting anybody drink water. They may not lap like a dog, but they may drink, but they still going to kneel down. Did you see that? But he said there's going to be a subset of dudes out of all of those dudes. Watch them close. Their knees won't touch the ground. They're going to scoop the water up and drink it out of their hands. Stand up dudes that's going to be ready to have a set of principles. You see that? They looking and they saying, oh, everybody's drinking water. They drinking water fast. These guys drinking water like that. These guys drink like water like that. But look, I'm not doing that. We've talked about this before, you guys. They show this in their little scientific studies. Y'all know about it. When they say, here's a triangle, here's a circle, then they get a whole bunch of people to go and do it. And then it's some people sitting there saying, it's a triangle and it's literally a circle sitting right there. Remember that? When y'all used to watch that little brain games or something like that? Y'all remember that? Huh? And you sitting up there like, am I that type of person? And I'm sitting up here knowing good and well, I don't care if a trillion people say that puppy is a triangle and I'm looking at a circle. When they get to me, I'm saying circle. Period. But they showed you that most people aren't cut like that. Yes or no? If what I see is a circle, I don't care if a trillion of y'all, I don't care if everybody on earth, if they all say triangle and I'm looking at a circle, I'm saying circle, period. That's what the Father is looking for. And as those men came and got there first, there were the ones who knelt down like a dog and lapped it like a dog. Other men ran up and knelt down like a dog too and just sucked it up. You see what I'm talking about? And then everybody was doing it that way. And then some dudes came like, I'm not about to get dirty like that. Doing it like that, dude? Because the minute that you go down on your knees, you're dirty down there. You understand? And I'm going to be kept clean. But the minute that I lean forward, I got to put my hands onto the mud, into the dirt. And now my hands are dirty. You see that? So how am I supposed to use my dirty hands to scoop the water? You see that? You see that? So they crouch down and get water and stand up and drink. The Father said, that one has a set of principles. And he doesn't care what the rest of these men are doing. That's a stand-up dude. In other words, when all the people come rushing in to this event and it's standing room only, kick everybody out that's sitting down. You see that? Standing room only, you got a bunch of people show up talking about some, yeah, let's get it done. Kick everybody out except the people who are standing up. That's not going to be a lot. Y'all understand? See what he did, the inverse? Most of the people at these events are going to be sitting down. Right? The stand-up ones are just going to be really like a very small portion because the places are designed to sit down. So all that's left is what? The outer aisle at the back. You see what I'm talking about? All it says, kick everybody else out, the majority of them, and just these ones that stand. Standing room only, dude. Stand up dudes only. The people who know how to stand up for their principles, that's all I want. And I'm going to show them something, and we'll be able to build with them. I'm going to show them something, we'll be able to build with them. He finally gets them whittled down to what basically is a fraction of what they started with. Okay, exactly 1%. They started with 32,000 and ended with 300. You heard that? They started with 32,000 and ended with 300. And then he says, we're going to go down and do this. This is important because had he kept any one of them people, the minute that he said, I'm going to give you all horns and I'm going to give you guys all this fire, guaranteed. One of them sit down types, one of them lap dog types, one of them bend over types, one of those viral types would have been like, is that gonna work? But that's not the way they used to do it over, because that's what those type of people do. They're always watching what somebody else is doing. So the minute Gideon would be like, look, this is what the Father's telling me, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to get these shofars, these trumpets, we're going to get these torches. We're going to go down there just outside their camp, you guys. We're going to blow these horns. And we're going to throw down our torches and cause a fire. If he kept them people, I guarantee people, well, what happens when we throw down the torches? We won't be able to see nothing. And usually, when so-and-so and them was fighting battles, they kept their torches in their hand, or they had some other people that carried the torches, and some carried trumpets, and some carried swords. And maybe we could do it like that because that's the way I seen them do it over there. And the Father said, I don't want nobody like that that's going to come up with these ideas that they've seen other people do and suggest that we do it because we're not going to win that way. Number one. Number two, that's going to be the very same person when we do win and say, oh, it's because of the ideas that I took from these other folks. You see what I'm talking about? He gets rid of them all, such that everybody there is a stand-up principle person. And they say, well, this leader is Gideon. This is the way he said that the Father says to do it. We're just going to do it this exact way. They go down there with the torches, blow the shofar, crack the what's names on the ground. They create a mild conflagration of fire. You understand what I'm talking about? The people there were already susceptible to the fact that they were going to be overthrown. It throws them into chaos and confusion, and they get them to flee. When they turn their backs to them, Gideon encourages the few people that are with him, go ahead and just strike them down with their back turned. And that's what they did, all the way across the land. All the way across the land. And the battle was held and won by our Father's glory, which every single one of those 300 stand-up folks, you understand what I'm talking about? Principled stand-up people was able to see, yes, God did this one. Yes, our Father Yah did this one. It was only done by him because we're not the type of people that A, will look to the left or right and see that it was some other reason. We know that God our Father worked through Gideon and delivered us this victory because we also know, because we're stand-up principle people, that typically the army of 300 is not going to beat no army of basically, I don't know, 1 million or so. You see how they numbered them? They said it was like, they used that one, a little funny little joke. They said it was like grasshoppers in number, you know what I'm saying? And then they said, well, like the sand of the sea, like camels and cookies, you know what I'm talking about? But they're going like grasshoppers, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, because we're gonna step all over, no matter how many of them it is. They still can't do nothing with us. You see what I'm saying? So they caused them to flee that 300. And the 300 is like, this ain't nothing but God. And that's all they ever going to hear from us because we're a principled set of people and we're stand-up folks. We're not about to try to steal glory. We're not going to do any of that. And they had that victory as far as the victory could be seen. And when they pushed them out to beyond those borders and passed over to the waters, past where they was, the oaks, you know about the oaks, where Abraham established the land that was going to be for them, the old oaks of Meribah and all of that, the oaks of Moreh. You see what I'm saying? Pushed them past all of those places, basically saying, this is a sign letting you know that it's our Father Yahweh's doing this because he's also aware of all the previous landmarks that he had promised to Abraham and everybody else. Once they got them out past all of those places with just the original principled stand-up folks, you understand? Then Gideon said, well, everybody come from miles around, any Israelite that's available, and let's just go ahead and lay it down onto these folks. Help us to finish the job, you know what I'm saying? Now that y'all see that victory is in hand. You understand? Critical mass. Y'all heard me? I'm explaining something to you here that you should take with you for your life. I'm explaining to you critical mass, that there is a point that the Father doesn't mind if the masses get involved. Because they're going to continue to push the glory. There is not a point, there is a point where our Father understands. When Christianity becomes mainstream, it's just going to be able to reach more people. You understand? Critical mass. There's a point where we're going to mass print this Holy Bible here so that people can read these words of truth. You understand? Critical mass. There's a point where some people are going to jump in, some of these same people who jump on every viral thing, right? And we're going to print a whole bunch of Bibles. It's going to be the most printed book of all time. There is a point that critical mass is going to kick in, and the Father doesn't mind it at that point. But understand this. There's a point for the standing room only. You understand? I want y'all to know this because it's a part of your history. And as you get older and you go into different types of leadership, there is something that is to say for the standing room, selected people only. Even in your own history, okay? With your granddad, with your great uncles, and that fought in the civil rights movement, there's this major push to say that so many people were involved in this. And at this point, you're going to be hard-pressed for anybody and everybody not to say how much they was involved. That's because the thing had hit critical mass and everybody came running and say, what? We're in. But there was a point where there was the standing room onlyers. You understand what I'm talking about? There was a point when Bernard Lafayette was walking all around Selma by himself and got beat to smithereens, man. He was by himself. You understand? There were points within that movement where people were constantly found by themselves. Mega evidence of these people were getting murdered, man, because it was just a few of them. They found themselves by themselves. It was only just a few. Stand up folks that were going to be aware that the Father was going to do something and give victory into their hands. You got to understand that even when they go to visit the Edmund Pettus Bridge every year, there's always all these people who show up to go across that bridge. They're not standing room only principal folks. They're the critical mass ones. You understand? It's the 50th anniversary. This one's the 25th. And all these people show up and they pretend. These are the ones that we were talking about. The viral. You understand? But there are some people, including your granddad, that will tell you, no, the first day that we showed up, it wasn't a lot of us. They went and trampled us back with horses and bust us in the head. That's the day that they barely talk about. That's the bloody day. And they saying we were doing this with just a few principled people. So that the Father can have people to bear witness and know for a fact that our Father acted on behalf of these people because it was only a few of them. And that's what happened there. And then, boom, critical mass hit and it blows right over fine. But it shouldn't change the faith of the ones who were standing up, who was there. You understand what I'm talking about? So as you grow into leadership and stuff like that, you understand that the Christ started out with how many? 12,000? 120,000? 1.2 million? Is that what he started out with? When the Christ did his thing, it must have been 1.2 million. Or 120,000. Or 10,200. How about it? Maybe 120. How many of them was it? 12.
What's a glass? Glass. What's a glass?
Okay, guys. I'm not being drinking all that. So what's the deal? course, our Father, and everything is possible in righteousness. I bless you, righteous and principled few. Let us stand for this. I bless you in the name of our Father, that He will bless you and keep you, and that He will lift up His face upon you, cause His grace to shine upon you, that He will lift up His countenance upon you, and give you peace. I bless you in His holy name, and in the Son, Christ, Messiah, who also rode with the few to critical mass, Yeshua, and our Father, Yah's most Holy Spirit, Yahweh. I bless you.